can't see the time on the clock. Alright, I'm hitting live. Perfect stream. A little delay. I'm gonna pop up in a little bit, so you just do your intro and don't wait for me. I'm gonna share it on Facebook. Alright.
Okay. All right, peace and blessings, family. This is our brother Shareef and Ptah Shakur with the Hour of Power. We have a very special guest tonight. Please share, and you're welcome to call in. Brother Ptah will give that information when he comes on in a few minutes. We'll do our opening universal prayer and our nugget of truth, and then we'll get right into this much anticipated interview. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the gracious, the merciful. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter, oracle scriptures and writings that came on the continent of Africa thousands of years before any organized religion. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. To my Hebrew Israelite family, Shalom. To my Black conscious family, Hotep. To my Native American family, Halito. And to my people in the streets, we come to you. It all means peace. I usually do a nugget of truth, which is us explaining our history, since it's not being explained in places of learning. But I'm not going to do a nugget of truth real quick. I just want everyone to realize what's going on in this country and this leadership. Whoever this Ben Shapiro is and this Elon Musk has petitioned the president to let Derek Chauvin off and a pardon, and he's the one that clearly killed George Floyd back in 2020, I think. I usually don't get into politics, but expect this to happen. He asked because he thinks it's going to be a yes. And if this demon does this, for all you black men and Puerto Rican men and Muslim leaders, this is beyond disrespectful and beyond inhuman. So keep your eyes out, and we need to stick together more than ever, because we are looking at some dark times. So I just making that clear that he did ask for, whoever this Ben Shapiro is, asked for a petition to let this Derek Chauvin off who killed George Floyd. Unreal. So without no further ado, we have Miss Sandy Walker. Not that you need any introduction, but glad to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You made a big announcement a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, a week ago.
Oh,
It's been a week. It's been a long week.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer than that. Did you make the announcement that you was running for mayor?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was on Tuesday, so we'll go with 8 days.
Okay. All right. And what brought you to that decision?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to appear on your show. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you for providing this platform. Growing up, we used to watch Joe Live in the community, and having the platform locally to be able to reach out to a resident of the city of York, just to inform them is something that's needed. So thank you for what you do. I think I'll probably start out with telling people more about myself, just because there are people out there who do not know me. And I always feel like it's important, especially in this particular state, to just share more about who I am as a person. So, just to give you a little bit of background, first of all, I'm going to approach this for me personally. I am a daughter. I am a wife. I'm a sister. I'm an auntie. I'm a bonus mother, soon to be bonus grandmother. And I think that's so important to share because a lot of times when people focus on politics, they forget that we're all human beings. I get up, I wake up in the morning, I deal with all of the emotions, angry, happy, sad, all that good stuff. And at the end, I realized that we're all human beings. We all go through this thing called life. We make the decisions that we think are best, knowing that there's more than just this physical space here. There's more after. So I always like to make sure I let people know that first. With more of my background, I'm a York City native. Just turned 42 last month. Grew up on the west end of York City, West Princess Street, went to Lincoln Elementary School. Family moved to the south side, went to McKinley, Hannah-Penn, and graduated from William Penn in 2001. Went off to the University of Richmond on an athletic scholarship. I graduated from the University of Richmond in 2005 with a dual major in leadership studies and urban policy and a minor in business administration. Always knew I was coming back home, and so I've been home ever since 2005, involved in the community, involved in different boards, serving, working, and trying to make York a better place to live, work, and play. So you asked why. I've gotten that question over this past week a lot, and so my response is, why not? This was pretty much a whirlwind for the past week, with Commissioner Muldrow making his announcement Sunday evening. There was a lot of thinking for me. It wasn't that I have no doubt that I'm qualified for the position, but a lot of people had asked me to run for this position over the past year and a half. And Commissioner Muldrow made it very clear in December of 2023 that he was going to run for mayor. And for me, I didn't want to cause division within the community.
That's right.
So it was one of those things where, of course, Commissioner Muldrow is more than qualified, and we've all seen the division that occurs when, especially in the communities of color, with history in York, when individuals run against each other, the division that it causes. And I just didn't want that. So it wasn't even on my radar 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. But at the same time, as you mentioned in your opening, the uncertainty that is happening from the top when it comes to the President of the United States, we're all in this gray area. We don't know what's going on. There's confusion. People are disconnected from politics. People don't want to watch the news. And what I knew is that I had the experience over the years in the various positions that I've served in, where I could offer the stability. I could be a fresh breath of air when it comes to leadership in the city. In addition to, I'm a strong believer in term limits. So even though there is not a term limit for the position of mayor, I do believe that 2 terms is enough. If I'm talking about my own experience when it comes to locally elected positions, I still believe in term limits, and the proof is in my record. So when I was on school board, I served on school board for 6 years. Now, those of you who really know the term limits, there's no term limits, but your terms are 4 years. So I served for 4 years on school board. I wasn't going to run again, but there was a member that resigned, and so I agreed to fulfill their remaining 2 years. So that's why it's 6 years. City council, I served for 2 terms, which was 8 years. And then I realized that you need to take a break. You need to let other people get in there. And there are other people that are qualified, and that becomes part of the more collective involvement when it comes to our community. So when this situation occurred, literally a week ago, it was more of York needs disability. I'm qualified. Why not serve the community?
So, Ms. Sandy, if I'm hearing you right, if Commissioner Muldrow would have went through with running for mayor, you would have just supported him?
Absolutely.
Or you would have,
Absolutely.
So it was only his, not resignation, because he never went there, but his pulling back. So you stepped forward.
Yes.
Okay.
So the petition season opened February 18th. There were already petitions being circulated for Commissioner Muldrow. Okay. 2 weeks ago, on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, I would have been at home on my couch watching TV. The petitions were already circulated February 18th, and I believe Commissioner Muldrow made his announcement to pull out maybe about 6 days after the petitions were already being circulated for mayor. So I had no intent on running for mayor. Asked multiple times. If I had an intent on running for mayor, I would have made an announcement quite some time ago.
Right. Okay. That's very humble of you to, like you said, take steps to bring us together and not division. I mean, I think it would have been within your right either way, my opinion. But I understand that, and that's a very, very humble of you. I'm gonna just get straight to the chase.
Before you get to the chase, if I can just do a little housekeeping for everyone who's watching right now. This is coming out live on the Right Rose Community Channel 16 and Channel 18, as well as being shared over Facebook right now. If you would like to call in once we get to like this is an hour-long broadcast, so make sure you get your questions in. After I'll say like the 30-minute mark, we'll be opening up the phone lines. So anybody want to call in, the numbers on the screen there, 717-846-5067. We want to hear from you, and we already have individuals logged in there on the Facebook as well. So please, we're going to be going to answer questions from the Facebook messaging in there as well. So I just want to remind everybody, this is on White Rose Community Channel 16. And if you're watching on that particular local channel, at 9 o'clock, we will be shutting off immediately right at 9. But if you're on Facebook, we'll probably go another about 15, 20 minutes. So So if you want that exclusive content, make sure that you go to Facebook, either Shareef, Hameed, or Ptah Shakur, and you can actually view it. It's open to the public on that particular channel. So I just wanted to make mention of that. And I want to give you your flowers as well. That is very humble and very, very considerate as well. And this is something that we've often spoke about on this program, is that in order to bring about the new solutions, all great breakthroughs come through brick whist. And so what we want individuals and citizens of the city, community members in the city, you have a role to play in where this future heads. No longer are we going to sit back and just let elected officials or kind of run things for us, so to speak. So just for you stepping into that light and stepping into that role and, and representing yourself. I actually know you kind of a little bit growing up. So I know it's a tremendous inspiration to younger individuals out there, because like you were speaking about those term limits, just on a macrocosm. I imagine we're going to eventually get to that as well. It's some real changes that's needed, and so I really salute you for stepping to this particular point and bringing your skills and talent. So that's what I wanted to mention. Go ahead, Shareef.
All right. Yes, I'm gonna cut right to the chase here. To your knowledge, is someone running against you?
Yes. So we're in the petition signing phase. The current mayor made an announcement, and he is collecting signatures. Yes.
Okay.
And so the signatures are due March 11th, and then we'll see how things occur afterwards. But as of now, we both are collecting signatures to appear on the ballot for the May 20th primary.
He's coming on the show next week. I don't play around. He made a statement, and it got a lot of people's attention. Because when I invited him on the show, you hadn't stepped up yet. It was like a day or two. It was about 1 or 2 days difference. And he got back with me and said, it's been a change with Commissioner Muldrow, but he would step down if someone he was comfortable with would step up, and he would step out. But he hasn't stepped down to our knowledge. What do you take from that?
So I take it for what it is. I look at the facts. The facts are we both are collecting signatures to appear on the ballot for May 20th. Once there's something public where he may step back, he makes the announcement or he withdraws, then we will handle that once it gets to that point. I've had conversation with the mayor. We've met. Matter of fact, I was at City Hall yesterday at an elected officials meeting. He has an open door policy. So when it comes to really getting information, the current state of the city, he has been more than willing to meet with me. But as it stands right now, we both are collecting signatures, and we will see what happens on March 12th, sorry.
That's when the signatures are due.
They're due the 11th, and so March 12th, the next day, we'll have confirmation of who actually has submitted their names for the ballot to appear on the ballot.
So so at that point they review if you got the
signatures.
needed signatures.
Yep.
And then will that for sure say who's running and who isn't?
Yes. Yeah. There could be someone out there who has their 100 signatures that decides that they want to be mayor. They'll submit theirs, and then we'll know everyone that has submitted to appear on the ballot.
And they review that fast, huh?
Well, on March 12th, you will know who submitted. And then throughout that week, the county's elections teams will review petitions to see who qualifies, etc. And then you'll have a final list within a couple of days.
Okay. It's going to be interesting. I say that. I mean, of course, he's experienced with getting the signatures. You know how to do it. You're qualified. I'm sure you got.
It's the same amount.
Support, yeah.
So for city council, you have to get 100 signatures. For school board at the
10.
time,
it's 10, isn't it?
It's 10 now. But it was more when I was on the school board. I believe. I could be wrong on that because that was like 15, 16 years ago. Yeah. But as of now,
it's good to
it's
get
10.
Much more than whatever, because they may have to cancel some out for whatever reason. So and you're doing was that today you did the signing at Grand Falloons?
Monday.
Huh? That was Monday. How did that go?
It went well. It's good to just be able to talk with people.
Right.
People just sometimes just want to have their voice heard. So meeting people face to face, getting concerns, getting praises, things that they're happy with. It's always good to do that. Yeah, I'll be at Skillet to Plate Bistro tomorrow at 4:30 as well.
Okay, I just came from there.
Stuff. And a Saturday we were at the Penn Market at Ethel's Mark Simpson stand. Love just being able to talk to people.
How many more, just so you can announce it, how many more signings do you have scheduled? Got Skillets to Plate? When is that?
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
4:30 to 6:30. Come out, support local. That's it. We won't be doing any more. Okay. We met our 100 within a couple of days.
Yeah.
So that wasn't an issue. It's more about just talking to people, kind of bringing back that camaraderie, us just talking, having a good time, and then really getting concerns that they may have fallen on deaf ears. So, it's just good to be able to get with folks.
If you would become mayor, what's some changes? Because that's a very key, what you said, there's no terms.
No term limits.
No term limit. What do you think needs immediate change or concern in this city?
So it's not a secret. When I was on city council, I'm a firm supporter of state of the city addresses. I mean, one is mandated in our law, in our charter, but the community needs to know exactly where you stand as a leader and what your vision is for the city of York. So I do believe that we need to go back to that. If you look at Harrisburg, Lancaster, I mean, it's mandated. So we need to do that in a official setting.
Yes, ma'am.
There was Mayor Helfrich's different. He would include them over the last couple years in the budget process, but I believe that there needs to be something official at the beginning of the year, because that sets the pace for all of us to be on a common ground to move towards accomplishing those goals. So that's one of the things that I definitely would love to see coming back to office. We definitely need to look at immigration. Anyone who is a resident here in the city of York has seen the increase of immigrants in our community, the Haitian population, and of course our Hispanic brothers and sisters. The population continues to grow. But now with federal and executive orders being placed down, it's our responsibility as the city to make it as clear as we can for our residents so we know how we're handling it. So those are two of the top priorities that I think really need to be addressed. And I would love to do that, especially within the first 30 days, to really set a clear goal of explanations for where we're going. It doesn't mean that everything will be done within 30 days, but a vision and clear communication will be presented to the community within that time frame. Affordable housing, a lot of people get that mixed with low income or subsidized housing. It's not the same. We have people who are working everyday jobs that just need something that they can afford for a better quality of life. And what happens is, and what has happened over the past 5 years since COVID, you had investors come into our community. They locked down the market. They brought up all the properties so they control the prices. And the only way, and when I say it's more of investors, because they're not necessarily looking at being the landlords. They're looking to control the market, which they've done. And they can set the prices. And the only way that you can compete with that is by offering more affordable units or housing or development, which the city is already starting to do. Four Squares, anybody from the West End, we probably would refer to it as Mr. Moy's Garden. There's going to be units that are going to be developed there. And then also, if you look at the Northwest Triangle, finally, there's going to be multi-units over in that area. But the only way you're going to combat that is through creating more market when it comes to housing so that people can actually afford, or those rates will have to be competitive for our community. So that's one of the things that really needs to continue to be pressed forward. The city's working on it. We'll continue to support that. One of the things that I would love to be able to look at is the city of Philadelphia. So in Pennsylvania, rent control we don't have any influence when it comes to city legislation. But what we can control is economic and community development. We can control what landlords are held accountable for. And if they are raising rents to prices that are absolutely ridiculous, we can do what Philadelphia does, and if it goes over a certain percentage, that would open up some type of inspection to justify that huge rate increase. So we may not be able to control rent because that's on a state level, but we can do some things as the city to help support our residents, as well as making it clear for landlords what we expect.
To your knowledge, Miss Sandy, what is, I think the current mayor did make a statement about his stance on the immigration. What is anything needed to be added or taken away from that to your knowledge?
You can't do anything. You have to be, you can't be idle. So not doing anything doesn't give the city direction. Just to give a brief history of what recently happened between city council and the mayor. Okay. City council presented a trust act, which basically, in summary, stated that city officials wouldn't discriminate, wouldn't inquire about immigration status, and it would be through an ordinance, which is legislation, which city council would pass and would be up to the administration to enforce and enact it. The legislation passed 3-2. So 3 city council members supported, 2 did not. The mayor can veto legislation. And so he vetoed the Trust Act. And then once it's vetoed, you need a strong majority to override the mayor. And the strong majority wasn't there. The vote was only 3-2. The mayor's made it clear that he doesn't want the city of York identified as a sanctuary city, because then there's a possibility that we would lose up to $2 million in HUD funding, federal funding. And so that's where it stands. It did appear, the Trust Act did appear on the legislative agenda at the beginning of the year, but it still stood.
So what exactly does that mean for immigrants in general?
It means that we still stay in the same status as we've been, which means that we're a welcoming city. Okay. And not a sanctuary city. Okay. So a welcoming city is basically an approach where we will support immigrants and all of our residents here in the city of York without any official legislation saying that we are going to go against federal immigration standards. And that was passed under Mayor Bracey. Not passed. It was an executive order under Mayor Bracey in 2017. Okay. So we've been a welcoming city. The reason why a lot of times we see the influx is because people see us as both a welcoming and a sanctuary city. Okay. So they know they can come here and get the supports that they might need, and not have to necessarily be fearful in that. So I understand where the mayor's coming from when he's concerned about the federal funding, but I do believe that we all need to come to the table to develop some type of policy so that our residents know where we're approaching this as a city.
Makes sense. A couple weeks ago, a video went viral of I guess, was that ICE?
Yes.
And they took the young man, and people got real emotional about that because he said his wife and all that. And then supposedly it came out that he had some charges with children, but my guest last week, Miss Stacia, said that wasn't even true. So I don't know what to believe, other than it wasn't York City Police. That, you know, a lot of people just thought it was York City Police that snatched them up, but that's not true. What's your understanding of that?
So ICE is federal, and there are facilities in our area that are directly related to ICE and are operated by ICE.
How long has that been in
It's been for
operation?
quite
Correct.
some years, because if
Yeah.
you go back, New York City has a history of being welcoming to immigrants, but our York County prisons, and there also were nonprofits in the 90s, I believe, that opened up facilities for immigrants. So it's been there for quite some time. It's just under the radar because it really hasn't been
So they've been
right in your face.
getting people off.
Mm-hmm. And even at one point in time in the York County Prison as well, there was a lot of space, to the point where nonprofits developed to house immigrants. So it's been around. It's just when it comes to what's happening now in front of your face, and of course with President Trump being in office, it's the unknown. And it's that fear of the unknown, and that's why you can't say, I'm just not going to do anything. We have to bring all stakeholders to the table, nonprofit organizations like CASA. You have to bring individuals who are actually experiencing this, because as an individual, if I were elected to mayor, I'm not dealing with that from my own personal experience. So you need individuals at the table as well. You have to understand that this has to go before city council. So if there are members that do not necessarily agree, how do we sit at the table to see what we can work towards? And that may not happen in a month or two. That might take 6 months. It might take a year. But we have to come to an agreement when it comes to direction and policy and framework for our city.
Does so this is a question from someone. They inboxed me this, so Todd, you won't see this question.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, sir.
Do they have any protection right now?
From the city?
Hold that real quick.
Okay.
Yes, you are on live on the Hour of Power live show. May I ask who I'm speaking to?
My name is Jeff Kirkland.
Jeff Kirkland. All right, you're loud and clear. We all can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I just want to thank you guys, Brother Shareef and Ptah, for continuing to bring the issues that are of interest to the community before us. I want to say thank you to Sandy, Ms. Walker, for her courage in continuing to run and serve in the city. With Shareef, Brother Shareef, you know how difficult it is to go out and serve the community, and we're not getting paid. The mayor does get paid, I guess, in the end. But Ms. Walker went through a lot of positions where she did not get paid, and went and really served her community. And I really appreciate that. I want to thank her for that. Continue having the courage to do that. Many people don't want to step up now because of so many. It's a nasty, seemed like more of a nasty arena out there, a political arena. But anyway, before rambling, I was happy to hear Ms. Walker talk about her priorities. One of the ones that I had a priority was affordable housing. And specifically, since the Northwest Triangle is now being developed, the other larger tract of land in York is the one over there by the Cador, where Cador Street was, by Densply tract. And I was wondering if Ms. Walker had any ideas of what kind of development was going to be going on over there, if she had any ideas about affordable housing over there. The history of that land over there where it was taken from black men, years ago under eminent domain. And many of the black folks, the minorities in the community, which is mostly minority, are the ones that can't afford that high rents that the developers are charging in town. Do you have any plans or any ideas on what can happen with that tract of land over there?
Well, thanks, Mr. Kirkland. I definitely appreciate you, and thank you for all your commitment in the community as well. So with Densply, it is currently under the Redevelopment Authority. And what I would need to do is I really would need to get an update on the direction that Blandon Ace is the connect and the employee for the city that deals directly with the RDA, and see what the current state of that is. I know when I was on city council, we were asked to put $5 million of ARPA funding to the purchase of Dentsply, and City Council was not in favor of doing that because we didn't necessarily know what the plans were. It wasn't presented clearly to us. In addition, there's a strong emphasis and belief that you need to have community input. And that's what we have Department of Community and Economic Development for, to handle that. So in my idea, when it comes to Dentsply, I really believe that we need to make sure that our residents are being heard to see exactly what they want, and then we plan accordingly. But when we're talking about that land, to my understanding, there's still a lot of testing that needs to be done to make sure the land's safe to develop on. So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed before making any decisions, but we definitely need more affordable housing, in particular in that area. For so long, growing up on the West End, Dentsply was a disconnect. It was in our community, but not a lot of people in our community worked at Dentsply. People would come in, you would see them drive into the closed off areas, and then they would leave at the end of the day. So I believe between the history that you know of when it comes to Dentsply, the history that I know of when it comes to Dentsply, it's more important now more than ever to make sure that we have inclusion from our community, especially the individuals that live in that area. So I definitely would be pressing and making that a priority for community input, and for inclusion, and also to see what we can do to honor the sacrifices for the individuals over the years where that land was taken from, and for the members that are connected to that as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. I hope you keep your mind on that. I'm sure that would go a long way towards healing, some of the bad feelings that were still below the surface in this community and all. So, again, I thank you for running and just hope you're successful in this bid.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kirkland.
Yes, sir. You guys are welcome.
All right.
I have a question. I'll let you finish the question that was sent online. Did you finish the question that you was asking?
I forget what it was, but go ahead, because I was going to ask you if you.
It was more of when it comes to ICE within our community.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the city of York, we're not federal.
Right.
And so people have to understand, and folks say I shouldn't use this language, but you have to be honest. I can tell you, or city council could create an ordinance, but we don't supersede state and we don't supersede federal. And people have to understand that when federal comes into the city of York, there is nothing that we can do to override that. And that's why it's so important to have that policy and community committee review to make people clear of the stance when it comes to the city.
Okay, thank you.
If you called, make sure you just go ahead and give a call back. I'll slide it over here and take care of that.
I'm sorry, what was your, I know you had a question, but I just wanted to make that clear to
That's
folks.
totally.
So even when you're talking about the video, I'm on Facebook, but even if I'm blessed to be elected to the position, you really won't see me interacting too much on Facebook without really doing the research.
Our broadcast, will you hold for a moment?
Without there being an official statement on the city's end.
Yes, caller, are you there? This is the Hour of Power broadcast. May I ask who I'm speaking to?
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is Samantha Dorn calling in.
Samantha Dorn. Good to hear from you. You're loud and clear. You're live on the television, White Rose area, and we're also on Facebook as well. Go ahead with your question, your comment.
Wonderful. Before I get to my question, I did have a comment just as you guys were talking about sanctuary cities. So, full disclosure, I do not live in the city, so I don't have a stake that way. But for my many years of working with government, I did want to say, it's very difficult for any elected officials when it comes to sanctuary cities or anything of that like, because of the fact that we live in a commonwealth. So being in a commonwealth, everything that the city does impacts funding countywide. And so, I've heard that number thrown out about $2 million as it relates to the city, but the number or the amount is much higher. And then also, unfortunately, for the area that we're in, we know, like the city tends to be looked at like this little island when we are very much a part of the county. So I did want to throw that in there, that the complexities of being in a commonwealth makes it difficult to govern. So I guess I would say, before I ask my question, Sandy, would you agree with that as far as the way that the Commonwealth runs?
Absolutely. We don't have to go that far. Look at Lancaster and what occurred when their city council passed legislation. The county came right in and passed something almost opposite the override. So yes, and I agree.
I think in like less than 2 weeks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So with that, and that leads into the question that I had here, which was, how important is it for people running for office, and that's any office, to have at least a basic understanding of how government works, such as the situation we just talked about? And then the last part is, what do you wish you knew when you first started as an elected official? And so I'll go ahead and hang up so I can hear your answer. And thanks for doing the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. She stole my question.
Thank you, Ms. Dorman. Again, thank you for all of your work within our community. Very important. You have to understand how local government works, and you also have to understand that you have to have a relationship with local governing bodies. So county commissioners, our school board directors, that's what makes up our local governing body, our local state representatives, our congressmen. You have to have those relationships and understand the roles and the responsibilities and understand the pros and the cons and what can be beneficial. But that starts with actually having two-way conversations, open conversations, having that relationship. I just happen to have good relationships when it comes to all of the individuals that serve in those positions that I mentioned. And I think that's probably another benefit that I bring if I'm coming to the office, is I already have those relationships established. Just because they're good communication relationships doesn't mean that you're going to agree. But that's part of being an adult. That's part of local government. It's all of those things. But the communication and the door is open. So that's important to have, because you never know when you're going to need those other entities or when they're going to need you. So going back to the second part of your question, what do I wish I would have known when I first was elected? Going back to school board, I think a lot of people that run for office think that you're going to go in and make change right away.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not the case. You have to learn the system. You have to learn the checks and balances, and understand that change is not overnight, but it's something that you can constantly work towards. So that's the experience that I bring over the years, is that I understand that I can't give people, I'm a realist. So I can't give you all these promises that I'm going to come into office and everything is going to be changed. There's going to be no violence. We're going to reduce taxes. Our school district's going to do a complete 180. Your county government is going to give the city millions of dollars in resources. State representatives, Congressman Perry's office is going to throw funds into the city of York. I can't promise any of that, because I understand that there are so many checks and balances, and given this particular day and age, there's so many executive orders coming down for the federal government It's making all of our heads spin. But what I can do is promise that I'll gather information. I'll promise you that I know I'm not the smartest person in the room, and that there are people who have information that is beneficial to help us make the best decisions for progress here in the city of York. So the change, and I always tell people that are running for office, get familiar with what you're running for. I understand that you may want to get into that position. You might be interested in the title, but there is work that is done behind the scenes. When I first got on school board, there were times where we were putting in 20 hours a week. We're working full-time jobs. It's a volunteer position. City council, nights that you're working on recommendation plans until 2 or 3 a.m. Then you have to get up a couple hours, go to your job that actually pays you, and then try to balance meetings, talking to employees, etc. But when you take those positions, you take an oath to execute that office with fidelity. And so that's what I can promise you. I can't promise you that things are going to change because people are tired of hearing promises and they're broken. Yes. But I can promise that I'll give you the best that I can and represent the city of York because it's the city that I love.
Absolutely, thank you. And that actually touches. I'm reading one of the comments that's there on the Facebook page. This is by Carrie Glover. Shout out family out there. She says, Sandy is transparent, relatable, and knows how to keep the main thing the main thing. So that kind of speaks to it as well. I think we become somewhat punch drunk, seeing how political campaigns is ran, and a lot of people, and a little bit of me self included, it's a little bit nauseated by the whole idea of politics as that. So speaking of an individual like myself that's looking for something that's new, it's very refreshing hearing you kind of share what you say, how you approach it. Kind of gives me hope, honestly, and I believe anybody that's out there, because like I said, this whole, and plus how the administration is handling things right now is a very unsettling time, and so we need real stable, calm, transparent individuals to help reflect what's going on in the community. But what I kind of wanted to tap into is, as far as we spoke about, I'm a youth advocate. We speak about the youth, and we believe like the youth is the future, and so. What would you say if you being in that position of being in the mayor? Would there be anything that you have in mind or would see as far as getting youth involvement in these processes? Because you mentioned something about checks and balances, and I was just sitting here like, what's she talking about? Like, what is the checks and balances like? And so being able to articulate that to our youth, what would you say about that as far as getting the youth's involvement in this process?
Okay, I can answer your checks and balances first. So
yes,
when you think about government, or you think about our national government, you have your executive branch, you have the legislative branch, and you have judicial. When it comes to city government, you have your legislative branch, which is city council. And you have your executive branch, which is the mayor. That's the day-to-day operation. Okay. A lot of times, people would come to me as a city council member, talk to me about the issues that are happening in front of their home, law enforcement, streets. That's executive.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if I'm walking down the street next year as mayor, you can come to me, tell me about an issue that's happening, then I can go to my director and see if they can address that issue. As a city council member, that's not under that purview. So
pushing it forward.
That's law. That's legislative. So that's the check and balances. And that's when you look at our city charter, that's why we were created with the mayoral council rule.
Gotcha.
Because you need the check and balance. You can't just have one person just making all of the decisions.
I got you. So you gotta you gotta know how to relate and kind of move in that environment.
And just like national, you have your president, you have Congress, you have your Supreme Court, the judicial branch. So, it just kind of scales it down. Now, when it comes to our young people, I didn't talk much about my history, but I started off my first job for within the city or actually I was a health education specialist, but then I became the youth program coordinator for the city of York,
Okay.
which is what the position that LaQuinn Thompson holds now.
Okay.
Youth have always been a priority for me because we have to make sure that our kids have the opportunities that they need, which is why it's so important for city government to work hand in hand with our school district, which there hasn't been a relationship in years. And so me coming to the table, I have good relationships I work for the York City School District now, but I have those relationships where I can reach out to people and cross both ends so that we can make some collaborative change within the city.
Yes,
I think we missed a huge opportunity with ARPA funds. You had $35 million come in on the city's ends. You had close to that come in on the school district end. There is no reason why we didn't work together other than the communication wasn't there to sit down and say, what can we do to work together? There may have been an effort on one end, may not have been an effort on the other end. The end result is that we missed an opportunity. And we can't afford to do that when it comes to our young people. Now, on the other hand, I mentioned I was a Division I athlete. Shout out to Chantel Tremetier, Barb DeShields, all the goats of women's basketball here in York City. But there's no reason in 2001 that I'm the last female to get a Division I athletic scholarships in basketball. One of the things that I bring to the table that I'm sure no other mayor in our history has is athletics and being a Division I athlete. I think that there's an opportunity here in the city of York to revamp our entire feeder program system. We're the only municipality in York County that doesn't work hand in hand between the school district athletic program and the municipal recreation. That makes absolutely no sense. We have to be able to feed our kids, get them exposed to learn the game, to learn the athletic system and whatever sport that might be. And we have to be able to feed them into our junior high programs and into our high school programs so that they're successful and understand whatever sport they're in. So that's something that definitely needs to be addressed because right now, when you have 3 or 4 different feeder programs that are operating, you're feeding these children into a junior high, they're not prepared, and they're playing against kids who have been part of the same feeder program system since they were in 1st or 2nd grade. They have a 5 or 6 year head start. So that's one of the things that I've always had an issue with. But when it comes to opportunities, I mean, we have our Bonnie Grimes, a gym, Princess Street Center growing up was a huge pillar in our community. Sure. And the building is condemned at this point. So when we put together
Princess Street Center,
mm-hmm.
It's condemned.
It's not officially condemned because the city would have to condemn it. But no one has been in that building for years. And if you drive past, you know what it is.
They have a daycare there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but that was
a couple of years ago.
More than a couple. We're talking about 6-7 years ago. Yeah. The last person that offered a program in there was Henry Dixon.
Shout out.
I thought, what's his name? I forget his name. He had a daycare in there. It was called Love something.
Lots of Love.
Lots of Love.
Yeah. Yeah. And they haven't been there for about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, they're out these.
Yep. So the building is sitting there. Now the mayor did invite me to his elected officials meeting yesterday, as I mentioned earlier, and they are quoting that building at $2.2 million for renovations, which the city doesn't necessarily have.
Princess Street Center.
Mm-hmm. But
why is it that much? Is that to get it up to code?
That's how bad a condition it is in.
Wow.
Yeah. It already was a building that required a lot of maintenance before, while Lots of Love was there. But when I was a youth program coordinator for the city, we offered programs to the community out of the building. Antoine Dorm's Boxing was there, Lots of Love was there, Henry Dixon's Karate. And I think in addition to the Princess Street Center, the funding for the Sylvia Newcomb on the north side of town, North Pine Street, in East Philadelphia, that's already in the works. They're raising funds to get that building renovated. It's going to be a police hub. Some health services are going to be there. They're going to be building a gym. We have to be able to offer those recreational opportunities for our children, and some of them are in the works, but then we have something like the Princess Street Center where we have to try to figure that out. So it's a lot of money, and we have to figure out where we're going to get that money from. But we need to be able to offer those recreational opportunities, because a lot of times in York City, we stay in our areas. People, west don't go out east, north don't go out south, and if we are able to offer those recreational opportunities, in addition to collaborate with the CAs, with the YWs, with the YMs, I think that we can offer our children a bit more access when it comes to recreational. And of course, if those recreational opportunities are there, that reduces the ability to get involved with things
For sure.
that will cause our children to get in trouble.
Absolutely.
And it's so many.
I can jump in one quick second. Share what you provide. Everybody who's watching on the channel 16 White Rose, we will be stopping right at 9 o'clock. But those who are on Facebook, we will continue going on a little further. Go ahead, Shareef.
It's so many places that could be used for, such for anything that we need in a community. Now, I was told that the mayor, not meaning the mayor now, just in general, that they have limited reach or that they can do educationally, and that's why it hasn't been done. That's not true.
What do you mean when?
They have limited, resources or limited authority as they relate to education.
Are you talking about collaboration with the school district?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's two different governing bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So the mayor can't decide what's happening in the schools. City council can't, which at times we get we used to get complaints about things that were happening in the schools, and we send it straight over to the school district. Mm-hmm. It's its own governing entity. So that's why it's so important for people to run for school board as well. What we see a lot of times is, and thank God for Miss Margie and Miss Diane and Mr. Mike Breland, they run and they've served. Now we can add decades for some of them. But 15, 16 years, because people aren't running for those offices. We need our generations to step up, because with school board, you are the final say at what happens in our district. And so it's its own governing body. And so the mayor can't make decisions directly to education, nor is it in the mayor's purview to do that. We leave that to Dr. Berry, who's the superintendent, and you leave that to the school board members and the executive cabinet. But there still should be that direct collaboration, because you're talking about the entity that is raising and rearing our future.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ptah, it's a couple comments. Chris Butler.
Yeah, there's one in particular that I'm getting a lot of questions that people want this particular question answered.
Okay.
Mr. Harrison shared, this is in relation to what you're talking about, the sports feeder program, and I think this is really much needed as far as sports athletic, because of the learning loss that was attributed because of COVID and things. I think if we don't act right now and get our children involved in any type of structured programming, and recreation has that, and sports has that, and we gather a lot. So that question in particular, we mentioned about the feeder program and how it said, would the city be able to help fund the feeder program or help raise money for the So people kind of waiting for that particular question to be answered firstly.
So, when I'm talking about a feeder program, I'm not talking about a separate feeder program. I'm talking about a feeder program that